Aisha, this is our new colleague. This is Dayang. Dayang, this is Aisha.
Hi, nice to meet you, Dayang.
Oh, hi. Me too. I hope we can cooperate in the future.
Sure.
Dayang, you can ask freely either me or Aisha related to audit work as we are more experienced in this field.
Oh, really? I have quite a lack of knowledge in audit risk. So, can both of you explain more about audit risk?
Inherent risk is defined as risk of material misstatement in a segment before considering the effectiveness of internal control, while control risk is risk that a material misstatement will not be prevented by clients. And finally, the detection risk is risk that audit evidence will fail to detect the misstatement. Do you have anything to add on, Aisha?
I think it is important for you to know the relationship between type of audit risk. Audit risk is equal to inherent risk multiplied with control risk multiplied with detection risk. For control risk, it is an inverse relationship with effectiveness of internal control, while for detection risk, it is an inverse relationship with inherent risk and control risk. Another one is the relationship between materiality and audit risk. When the materiality is low, the audit risk will high. This indicates that the materiality and audit risk is an inverse relationship.
Oh, now I can see more clearly about audit risk. How about the level of assurance?
1% of audit risk will equal to 99% of level of assurance.
Correct me if I'm wrong. As what I know, the example of circumstances indicating increased risk of error and fraud are first, analytical procedure disclosure major differences from expectation. Second is transaction like proper documentation or authorization, and so on. So, do I mistakenly stated?
You are correct. If you do audit risk, you need to know how to minimize it as well. I will share 4 of it. Firstly, plan and delegate the audit with TUK. Secondly, audit evidence are properly documented. Thirdly, use audit manual. And fourthly, avoid misunderstanding with client.
I feel glad that I have a senior auditor like both of you. I feel more confident to carry out my duty after this.
Good morning, auditors kalian. Today, I am going to tell you about audit sampling. You! What do you know about audit sampling?
As far as I know, audit sampling is the use of an audit procedure on a selection of items within an account balance or class of transaction.
Excellent. You! What do you understand about audit sampling?
As for me, what I understand about audit sampling is it is when auditor give unqualified opinions to the companies, although it has a misstated material in the financial statement.
Wonderful. Okay, betul. There are 7 main points in audit sampling, which are the similarities and the differences, ISA 500 audit evidence, ISA 520 audit evidence, sampling risk, types of audit sampling, category of statistical sampling, and the advantage and the disadvantage of this sampling. Okay, I want to tell you about the first thing that I mentioned just now, which is the similarities and the differences between statistical sampling and non-statistical sampling. Okay, the similarities between statistical and non-statisticals are: the first one, both have evaluate result. Second one is both we must perform audit procedure. And the last one is selection of sample. Okay, while the differences are, statistical sampling need to have knowledge on statistic formula, while non-statistical sampling is based on experience. That's the first one. The second difference is statistical sampling has objective, which means samples are mathematically proven to represent population, while the non-statistical sampling is based on subjective result. The sample may not represent the population. The third one is statistical sampling has different auditor with the same approach will give the same answer, while non-statistical sampling, different auditor will have different approach and as a result will give different answer. The fourth one is statistical sampling. It is efficient method and can delegate the responsibility to select audit sample to lower rank audit staff. While non-statistical sampling is not an efficient method and need more senior audit staff to devise the sample and select the sample. And the last difference is statistical sampling is defensible in the court of law, while non-statistical sampling has no defensible in the court of law. Done. According to ISA 500 audit evidence, audit opinion is equal to sufficient plus appropriate minus conclusion, and the examined result is less than 100%. Okay, well, according to ISA 530 audit sampling is an application of audit process minus characteristic and equal to conclusion of population. And ISA 550 stresses on the opinion in audit report, and it also stresses on statistical and non-statistical application approach. Okay, next I'm going to talk about the sampling risk and non-sampling risk. There are two types of sampling risk. One of them is substantive test and another one is compliance on the test of control. There are two types of substantive tests, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 talk about assume material but not, and type 2 talks about assume not material but yes. Next, I am going to talk about compliance on test of control. Tests of control are performed to obtain evidence either the effectiveness of the design of the policies or procedure in IC and the operating effectiveness of those policies or procedure. There are two types of tests of control. The first one, if you assess the information high, and then you will conclude more. And the second type is when you assess the information less, you will conclude less. Okay, next I'm going to talk about non-sampling risk. There are two factors. One factor is a conclusion but not using sampling size. Another factor is cannot be mathematically measured, and therefore the risk is low, and plan and supervision is also low. Next, I am going to talk about the types of audit sampling. There are two types of audit sampling. First one is statistical sampling, and another one is non-statistical sampling. Statistical sampling it's random, it's based on probability theory, and it has smaller sample, and it is defendable. When to use the statistical sampling is based on judgment, and usually statistical sampling is effective internal control, and it has homogeneous, and it is identifiable and accessible. Next, I'm going to talk about non-statistical sampling. It is non-random, it is subjective, and it is based on judgment. Okay, there are three categories of statistical sampling, which are classical variable sampling, monetary unit sampling, and attribute sampling. Classical variable sampling talks about random table and audit software, and it has normal distribution theory, and that's all. Okay. Because the monetary unit sampling talks about test for overstatement, estimate, misstatement, conclusion in monetary amount. And the last one is attribute sampling. It talks about estimate population, and it has specific characteristic. And last one is test of control. And the last part I'm going to talk about is the advantage and the disadvantage of statistical sampling. The advantages are it is efficient, sufficient, quantity risk, and rely on small sample, and it is defendable. While the disadvantages are one of them is cost. They incur cost for training, and the design and the conduct sampling application is also not consistent. Okay. May I ask the advantages and the disadvantages of non-statistical sampling? Who wants to answer my question?
For me, it is just a contra for the statistical sampling.
Exactly. Okay. The advantages are it incur low training cost, and it is easier. And the disadvantages are: first, litigation problem; second, it has training difficulties; and the last one, the information that we gather is not consistent. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you for attending my seminar. Yang baik datang Tuhan, yang selalu. Terima kasih banyak.